Whatever you do, don't order food after midnight. How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? Hello, and welcome back to Mystery Inc. My name is Richie. Today, we've got another C.R.O.W. Files book review for you. Today, we're talking about book number 4, Ghost Kitchen. Alright, so this is the third book I've read from the series so far. And this was a very good one. I was kind of on the fence after reading the first one. I did not like the first one. The first one was really bad. I mean, it wasn't terrible. It was okay. But there were some pretty big issues, pretty big glaring issues with it. I read book 8 next, which was fantastic. I loved it. Still had a couple of minor grammatical and editing issues, and that was kind of the same case here, but the story was also really good. I'll start with the blurb on the back, and then we'll get into the synopsis and review here. So, welcome to the Midnight Menu. 12-year-old Carter has a secret habit. He sneaks midnight food deliveries with his allowance so his parents won't find out. But when a new restaurant called the Midnight Menu appears on his delivery app, Carter's late-night cravings turn strange. At first, the food is perfect, too perfect, and the food comes fast, too fast. And soon, Carter begins to wonder who or what is really doing the cooking. When the clock hits 12, dinner's on its way, whether you ordered it or not. So yeah, Midnight Menu, aka Ghost Kitchen. So we have Carter. We've got four main characters here. So we have Carter, who is like our series lead, story lead, and then his three friends, Cynthia, Deidre, and Johnny. So the book sets up how Carter he wants to be a chef when he grows up, and he's really into trying all these like weird exotic kinds of food, which his parents don't really make. They make basic simple stuff, and so he uses his allowance to sneakily order strange foods using online ordering apps, and has the food delivered after they go to bed, so he can try all these different culinary things. And that's kind of the setup for why he's not allowed to order this food and stuff like that. That part's kind of glazed over just for the sake of the plot, which is okay because if we ignore that little tiny bit of the premise being just kind of wonky, the rest of the plot of the book is really great. So, like it said in the back of the book, Carter discovers this new restaurant called the Midnight Menu, and he starts ordering this weird exotic food from it, and it's delivered within like a couple of minutes the first time, and then a couple of seconds the time after that. The food apparently is just like insanely good, like unbelievably good. He ends up telling his friends about this. They were all friends they met through home economics, which is a class, I guess, where they teach cooking and things like that. I don't know. When I was in school, the school that I went to didn't have that kind of a class, anything like that. But so Carter's in a different like grade level than his three friends because he's a bit more of an advanced cook. So he's taking like a more advanced home ec class than his friends are. But they still meet up after school and at lunchtime and stuff like that and hang out and talk about life, talk about their culinary interests and all that other stuff. And so he tells them about the Midnight Menu, and there's some weird stuff that goes on with it, like they can't find the restaurant on the app anywhere or on their own phones, their other apps and stuff like that. It's just Carter that seems to be able to find it, at least initially. And so a couple days go by where he tries this weird food. Not weird food. Well, it's weird. The delivery service is weird, but the food itself is good. And some strange things happen, and Carter starts noticing some weird things just about life in general, where his parents aren't home, and they do a lot of traveling, and all of a sudden he's starting to have like memory loss. Like he can't remember anything that happened a couple weeks or like a week before he started ordering food from the Midnight Menu, and every time he accesses the app, for this restaurant. There seems to be more and more stuff there that wasn't there before, like order history and just a whole bunch of other random stuff. And there seems to be like order history on the app leading all the way back to his birth date, which is very weird. So he discusses this a little bit with his friends. He ends up hanging out a lot more with Cynthia more than the other two. They do all hang out a handful of times in the story, and they're trying to figure out what's going on with this like weird mysterious app and this food delivery service, or this food, not the service so much as the restaurant itself that the food's coming from. They're trying to figure out what in the world is going on here. And so there's a lot of I can't really go into too much other detail without spoiling the big twist and the plot and everything here too much, but there's a lot of weird stuff that ensues with Carter, his parents missing, and him not remembering them going on their trip or whatever like that. And I guess Cynthia's parents are also traveling. And just some other weird stuff around that. Anyway, the story kind of culminates when the Midnight Menu sends an offer to our characters here, to Carter, and then he invites his friends to come in person to their restaurant for like a special invitation thing because he's a valued customer or whatever. And yeah, that's where I'm going to leave it. They end up, going and checking this place out, and a lot of interesting stuff happens at the end, which I was not expecting. Did not see this twist coming at all. Like I picked up on the big main twist, but kind of the ending of the book and the whole thing with the Midnight Menu, I did not see that coming. So it was a very fun surprise. So let's talk about the issues that I had with the book. Again, the kind of the initial premise just seemed kind of weird, but once you get into the story, it actually makes sense. So, yeah, so it didn't actually turn out to be an issue. Like I thought it was going to be at first, but it makes sense once you get into the meat of the story and the twist at the end. And then obviously we had the same issues that I had with the first book and the eighth book, and that is there's a handful of typos. Most of them are towards the beginning of the book, but just some weird like I said, I don't think that these books are being properly edited. Like I don't think that the author has a proper editor, because towards the beginning of the book, there's a couple of times where Johnny is mentioned as just John, and then there's one where I don't know if it was like an autocorrect thing or something, during spell check or whatever, but he's referred to once as Jonah instead of John or Johnny, just one time. That really threw me for a loop. That was like in the third chapter, I think. Which ironically, I think chapter 3 was also where I discovered like a couple of typos like that in the eighth book as well. It seemed to be that most of the issues I had were towards the beginning of the books. Anyway, yeah, so other than that, it was a really good story. It felt fairly well written, all things considered. The plot made sense. The conclusion was, I mean, it was on point for, a middle grade horror book like this. This one was not as scary as the other two. And, I don't think that all these books are meant to be scary. A little bit mysterious and ominous and stuff, which makes sense, but not necessarily, scary the way that, every Goosebumps book is scary. Well, I mean, even some of those are just more funny than scary, but, yeah, this was overall a really good read, except for, again, the author really needs to figure out these editing issues, but, yeah. Let's go ahead and go over to my star rankings, and we'll talk about some more of the categories in depth. So characters, first of all, I gave this a solid 4-star. Wasn't excellent, wasn't bad. Carter was pretty well written. I really loved Cynthia, who, of his 3 friends, seems to be probably his closest friend. And then the other 2 were just fine. Johnny and Deidre were all right. They were written fine. They made sense in the plot. That just they weren't amazing characters, so I just did a 4 star. You know, it wasn't good enough for 5 in my opinion, but there was nothing glaringly wrong with any of the characters. And actually, a couple of very minor characters that we only see towards the end of the book actually were a pretty big highlight to the story. They were very clearly a reference to a famous duo. I'm not going to give it away if you decide to read this, but a famous duo that you would definitely recognize who they're referring to if you read the book. So that was fun. That was a fun nod there. Atmosphere in the book, this one, I only gave it 3 stars, which might be a little bit harsh. Like, it was definitely ominous. There was a very big sense of loneliness in this one, especially with Carter once we get kind of to the middle of the book. And then just a little bit of like the creepy, mysterious atmosphere with this food service and this restaurant, and just not knowing what's going on. But again, this wasn't a very scary book, and towards the end, it kind of got a little bit less scary and a little bit more fun, I guess you could say. So yeah, the atmosphere was just okay. It wasn't as good as the eighth book, or even the first book, in my opinion, but it was good. It was fine. Middle of the road score there. As far as the plot and the twist go, yeah, the plot was it was there. It was good. The kind of overall main twist was pretty obvious, and I picked up on that maybe by the page 30 or 40. It was not quite halfway through the book. But then the very ending twist, I didn't really see that coming. It was very fun. The plot was just it was okay. It wasn't great. So again, I gave it a middle of the road score there. Because I called the main twist, and then, like I said, it worked, but it wasn't like the strongest plot ever. Pacing and intrigue, yeah, the book was fine. It was paced well. There was enough intrigue. A lot of mystery with what's going on with this food delivery thing, and then also the part about Carter losing his memory and not knowing what's going on there. Which led me to an overall enjoyment of the book. I give it 4 stars. I didn't love it, the way that I loved the eighth book, and I didn't hate it the way that I hated the first book. Not that I hated the first book; it just wasn't great. But this one, yeah, it was a solid 4 stars for me, which leads into the overall score, which everything calculated together gave us a 3.8, which is good enough for a 4 star, lower end of a 4 star, but good enough for 4. And yeah, I definitely enjoyed this one. I'm interested to see if any of the other books in the series will outrank this one. Obviously, book 8 is higher up for me, but yeah, I have a feeling this is probably going to be towards my top favorites from the series once I finish reading all of them. But yeah, this is one that again, like I said, these books are new. It's kind of fun. It's an interesting premise. I would recommend picking this one up if you're interested in these at all. Book 8 was great. This one was good. I probably wouldn't pick up the first book unless you just want the full experience like I do with the series. But yeah, fun read overall. I would definitely recommend it if you're in the market for something like this. But yeah, that's about all I have to say about this one. Like I said, there's not a whole lot more I can talk about the plot without spoiling too much of it. I don't want to give it away because I really enjoyed it, and I think you might too if you read it. But so what's up next? I don't know what book we're going to read next in this series. I'm thinking maybe it's going to either be book 5 or book 6. I'm leaning towards. Book 5 is The Sharing. It's about like a family vacation, ghosts in a hotel thing. And then book 6 was that one's about like the mysterious tutor that sounds like it's probably going to be some kind of like a robot android story. Or maybe we'll read book 9, since that one just came out. Well, I guess when this video goes live, it will have probably come out a week, maybe 2 weeks ago. It's the e-scooter e-apocalypse, although that's part 1 of at least a 2-book, maybe a 3-book series, it sounds like. So maybe we'll hold off on that one, but let me know what you guys think. As far as the next overall book review, we're probably going to be doing another Goosebumps book, probably something from Series 2000. Not 100% sure yet, again, based on when the timing of this review is going to come out, but we'll see. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what you thought about this book. Obviously, if you haven't read it, I didn't go into too much detail because I don't want to spoil it, but have you read this? Has anybody else read any books from this series, or is it just me at this point? I really don't know. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. We'll catch you in the next video, and have a great day.